Welcome to Assyria TV. On today's show we will be discussing missing peoples and one's search for its biological parents. Joining us today we have David Noone. Welcome to Assyria TV.
Thank you.
So David, you have been searching for your father for the past 20 years. What can you tell us about your journey that has led you here to Södertälje in Sweden?
It's been a long journey, and for years we, like people were saying it was impossible, but now it looks like the end is in sight, with the DNA matches increasing all the time to people in Midyat mainly. But I looked in Italy for years because the social worker sent me in the wrong direction, and basically they invented an Italian identity which wasn't there. And the DNA tests at the beginning also were confused, because if you're half from Assyria and half from Ireland, it can look like you're coming from the middle. And some tests gave me false Italian results. But this has improved over the last few years, and also more people have tested. And in Södertälje around 2 years ago, a lot of people started testing with a certain company, and that got my attention, and then I finally got here.
Okay, yeah. So David, you found your mother in 2001, 18 years ago. What can you tell us about the relationship that has developed between the two of you since you found her?
There's no relationship, because the first month she spoke to me on the phone, but then she broke off contact because the Irish social workers and the state had delayed the reunion so long that she had got married to a guy in England, and he wanted to keep her to himself. So I found her just at an awkward moment, and now she's in Ohio and we've no communication. I think she receives letters, I'm not sure, but and I have a phone number for her husband's secretary in England, but they don't give me any information. And I sent a DNA test also just to help with building the Irish side family tree, but this wasn't used, so there's no cooperation at all. And I found her first cousin using the DNA also, and this woman has given me no family tree for the Irish side also. So from the Irish side we're getting obstruction and not so much help.
Okay.
And but from the paternal side, what relatives I found so far, even though they're distant, are helping me to a certain amount.
Okay, yeah. So David, once you arrived here in Sweden, in Södertälje, and you started asking around for your relatives and your father, how has the response been from Assyrians that lives here who have heard of you and want to help you? Or yeah,
mainly it's been positive. We've had one or two who know certain people who are a little bit paranoid, but in general people are supportive, and I've been testing a few people, and as soon as I get more testing kits I'll test more people, and I encourage other people to get tested as much as I can, and I'm trying to get myself as known as possible and the cause as known as possible.
yeah.
And like before I came here, I only just found matches over 1%, 1.7%, and this is like around third cousin distance. So if we test more people following these family trees, we'll find higher percentages, and we'll converge on a solution. But it's a lot of work to get the hard data, to get family trees. Many people don't know their family tree in much detail, and it's hard for me to communicate also. It's a challenge for me. I don't speak any Swedish or
Okay, yeah. So David, you have in order to find your true roots, you have used the tool of DNA technology that gives you a mapping of your roots today. What can you tell us about your experiences in order to help others that are thinking of using this tool as a way of finding their roots? Has it been very difficult, or what are your experiences with this?
It depends on their origins. It depends. If they're American, it can be easy, but if they're from a small group, it can be very hard, because if not enough people are tested. This was a problem also, lack of visibility when the small numbers. And I don't know what happened in Sweden that it became popular among Assyrians, but suddenly they became visible. Where for years before I only had small matches here and there in Chicago and on different websites.
Yeah, yeah. You mentioned that you got a 0.6
in 2015.
In 2015 in Torabdin in southeastern Turkey.
Yeah, but even in 2014 we had the GED match tests, which had been created with the help of some people living here, which showed 50-50. And people were saying to me, Italy's the wrong country, you should look Assyria, Armenia, something like this. And then the 0.6%, but it took like a while to get to snowball to get more and more matches, and to the point where we had over 1% in the last month. And we'll see how many people I can encourage to test here. My goal would be to test 100 people in my visit.
Okay, yeah. David, you also, besides looking for your father and relatives, you're also helping others finding their biological relatives or fathers. It has to be both very emotional for you at this, and at the same time you have to be able to channeling those emotions in order to help others who are struggling to take on the decision on finding their biological parents, in despite or knowing that it may be not what they were expecting, or they will be somehow very how can I say, very emotional distress over finding their parents.
Like most of them are curious. Curiosity is the main thing.
Yeah.
They're not so worried about the reaction. The main thing is it nags them in their sleep.
Yeah.
It's like one woman I'm helping, she's 40 years searching. She found her mother, but not yet her father. And her mother was Calabrian, and her father is some sort of American with Ashkenazi. And it's very hard with Ashkenazis because they're so closely connected with each other, and they share such a large amount with each other to identify close from distant. So there's all these problems, but also the governments are obstructing genealogy because they have their data protection. So for me, I can't get records from London from the year I'm interested in because the universities, all these won't give me the lists of students or this kind of thing. So that makes it to make an NGO solving these cases would almost be impossible because the way the governments are set up in Europe.
Okay, so you have been traveling across Europe in order to find your parents. I would imagine, or maybe you have been in contact with other missing people's organizations as well. How has the response been there overall?
There's a lack of for when you don't know the name, there's a lack of organizations. When you know the name, there's the Red Cross and that kind of thing. And even looking for people when you know the name can be tricky. Women change their surnames when they're married. But a lot of people in the West, they don't know their fathers, they don't talk about it. They're afraid even to do the DNA test. Because I tried to give testing kits to different people I meet. Like in Sototalji, I met a Finnish woman whose father was a sailor, and she didn't even do the test. You know, like I had a test in my bag, I could have given her a test. But it's like a big trauma for millions of people in the West, and they suppress it.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. So besides searching for your father, you have an interest in politics as well. In terms of the Assyrian history and its political challenges today, if we start by what can you tell us about what you know about the Assyrians today?
I don't know enough yet, and I just see lots of factionalism, and disunity is never good, you know. But at the same time, I'm trying to talk to all these factions here because my story is like is on a different is a different kind of existence, and I have to be. But it was confusing for me when I'm talking on the internet and someone says they're one thing and they're another. And with the DNA, maybe I can bring unity by having a website where I have the haplogroups, and then if you claim to be one thing if you want to be regionalism, like with the Italians, for example, the different regions are very different, also genetically, you know. So if people want to have a regionalism, they have to justify it with the science. So I'm the faction of science.
Okay, yeah. If we to continue our discussion regarding the Assyrian history, what gave you the idea that your biological father may be Assyrian?
The matches. If you're sharing with somebody from a known origin and it says 4 grandparents from Midiat and it's bigger than a certain size, you know that you have ancestry from that place. Whether they went to Kamishli, I don't know. Who knows where they ended up? But it looks, and now I have 2 clusters of names like this. It looks like 2 grandparents. We can't be sure, but like for sure. And also when I share, other people share their passwords, I can see what they get. They get 1.5 with somebody, I get 0.7 with the same person. I'm getting around half what somebody who is 100% is getting with the people they share with also.
Okay.
And we all share together in a matrix.
All right, so you have seen the comparison with others that have also searched for...
And I collect as much data as I can from people from Turadin, and I see compared to mine what they get.
Okay, all right. Yeah.
Who they share with also.
Okay. What gave you the direction of asking Assyrians in order to search for a father? Why not Greeks? Why not Armenians?
In 2015, after I was on Italian television, Jason, I won't say his name, but a certain match appeared of a certain size that I had no doubt that it had to be Assyrians. But then it was a question how much ancestry from Assyria. Was it 50%, 25%? And it took a while before we had enough names to say yes, 100%. And it seems to be 100% my father from Midiat, because I show the names to many people and they say Midiat, your father's from Midiat, somewhere like this, not so far away. According to the people I meet in this town also. The people I meet the matches from the website, and I show them what I have, and they give their opinion.
All right.
And I also in other countries when I meet them, when I travel and I meet them.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
Armenians, I had a few at the beginning, and it was a question at the beginning. And in America, there was lots of Armenians, but very small. And from Harput, in one part of one chromosome, I had a group of Armenians. But I think it's very common for Assyrians to have a little bit of Armenian. And
yes.
I want more people to share their data with me, so I have more understanding of what's expected from different parts.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Yes. So besides this interest in helping others to finding their biological parents in missing people's organizations, do you have any other interests as well? You mentioned that you were a little interested in politics as well. How is it more like challenges for the helping others politically to pave the way of finding its roots, or is it more like other political?
I lived in many countries and
Yeah.
I've seen the declining quality of life. I lived in Italy, I lived in France, I lived in England, and I worry about the future of Western civilization, and not just the Middle East but also Western Europe, because it's hard for Westerners to help people in the Middle East when their own societies are collapsing. The birth rate is collapsing, things like this, and some of these older men I'm meeting, they don't understand the problems we have with our own women folk. And I'm motivated also because many of my English friends don't know their fathers.
Okay, all right, yes.
And there's whole cities where there's no man deserts, where you have welfare mothers and no fathers.
You went to Italy, you had an interview there. Can you tell us a little more about the interview you had in Italy? What topics were in order for you to search for your father?
It took quite a while to get their attention, and I was 2 years or more cycling around in Italy, and enough people contacted the TV that they got interested, and I was cycling around Italy finding so initially the social workers, they gave me a document that claimed my father was Italian, but my mother never verified this. and she never she wouldn't communicate with me. So it was a guess always that this was true or not, you know. But I thought I've nothing else to work with. I tried this, and so I went around Italy. I met like maybe thousands of men, and they told me their stories about London in 1974, and we thought we'd make a nationwide appeal, and that maybe we get lucky and someone would remember something, and. But and 1 month after I was on TV is when the first solid match came. So I knew I was in the wrong country, but it was worth it, the effort, because at that stage we didn't know it was the wrong country until we tried everything.
Yeah. So from there you went on to.
I went around Germany.
You went to Germany.
Germany afterwards. I tried to raise money for the tests and get. I didn't yet know that Assyrian was what I was looking for. I just knew that Italy wasn't the right place, and I had to keep going and try to find, see what happened, and then it took a while to materialize where I should look after that.
All right. You have also been to places like Belarus and Malta.
Yeah, different places. Yeah. Malta, because my haplogroup is J1, so every man has his haplogroup, which is identical father to grandfather for thousands of years, and our haplogroups are very old, and not so many have done their tests. So we should have like a website with our haplogroup. So mine's around 10,000 years old. And it's also found in the Mediterranean, in places like Greece and stuff like this. And so it looked reasonable to ask, you know, in Malta, where they have lots of J1 also. But theirs is younger. So you can also tell from the age how populations moved around.
All right, yeah. So before Sweden, you ended up in Switzerland before, and then from Switzerland, you then finally arrived here in Sweden.
Yeah.
So what in Switzerland, if we go there, what gave you the results that pointed you to Sweden?
Because I'm on the website, there were so many people in Sodertalgi who had done the test.
Oh,
so,
right.
And this is a centre, so if I'm going to have more better matches, I have to test more people here.
Okay.
And in Switzerland, the communities are very small. It was very hard to visit them, the logistics. I went also to Germany, to Gütersloh, and I stayed with some of the people from the website also.
Okay, all right, yeah. Do you have anything that you wish to share with us in order to help you find your relatives?
We need to test more people. We need to take people to test themselves. We need more resources for me to travel and testing people, and we need people to help me with this. And then if people know anyone who was in London in 1974, it doesn't hurt also. Not so many people from Tur Abdin were there, but maybe people were visiting. It's a big city, who knows? People maybe were there for 1 week and went back to Sweden, who knows?
Oh, okay.
But word of mouth maybe won't solve this, but testing will. We get closer all the time.
After you have seen all of the facts that has pointed you that your father may be Assyrian, but despite on the facts that you have gotten, what is your heart telling you about who your father or relatives are?
This is a hard question. My intuition, I don't know. I keep an open mind, but who knows? Who knows where he is? But if we can find whatever village, the family tree, and the roots, it's a big step forward from being born not knowing what nationality you have. It's like nobody's writing about this, but they take children in all these countries all over the world and they move them around, and many of them want to go back to where they came from. I was speaking to a man, he went back to Lebanon and he didn't integrate there. Like, I'm 44 years old, I don't know my mother or my father's language, you know. Yeah. It's a theft of information, and it's also finding unknown fathers is like raising the dead, because if you hide someone's identity, it's almost like you killed them. And we don't talk about this because the way the West is set up, they leave things happen, and some groups have privilege and other groups have to suffer. But we need to have more people writing about this and talking about this, because for the fabric of the nation and the community, you know.
Okay. So thank you for joining us today, David, and we wish you a good luck and all the best in the search for your relatives and your father.
Thanks, and thanks for having me on.
Yes. We have been discussing missing peoples and one search for its biological parents. I'm Andreas Berg-Josef. Thank you for joining us today. See you next time on Assyria TV.